Chapter 17-18 Swept clean. Green Mountain is both more and less impressive than I thought it might be. I mean, it's hard for these places to not be impressive, given the way they're built on the slopes of mountains so large they literally hold up the roof of the stratum. Combine that with the ambient mana of the fourth, being filled with life, light and water, looking at just about anything creates a jaw-dropping view. Having said all that, the city on this particular mountain is clearly old and well-developed, with high walls, a bustling port and thousands upon thousands of dwellings climbing up the slope towards the upper reaches in the clouds. Is it the Silver City? Not by a long shot, but it's clearly prosperous. If not a little bit militant. Where the Silver City was designed to be an inhabitable work of art, Green Mountain looks like it was built to frown at the world. Despite the name, the buildings are quite gray and austere. If I look closely, it seems as though many of the structures have been built to form internal walls and defensive positions in the event the city is ever invaded. Not quite a fortress, but clearly a place that has a rather defensive mindset. Makes sense, considering one of the major industries here is core harvesting. Close enough to the mother tree that they can see her in the distance, the people here have cultivated a reputation for holding negative views of all things monster. Unlucky for them that the colony happened to pop up and seize the mountain next door. Oh, it looks like they've spotted me. It took a couple of days to hunt through a bunch of tunnels and make my way right up to the boundary of Green Mountain itself. Not wanting to run into their walls and outposts down in the dungeon, I decided to tunnel up to the surface, creating a stone pathway as I went, to breach the surface of the lake and take a look at the city for myself. I can faintly hear alarm bells ringing from the walls and see figures scurrying about, pointing and shouting. They seem energetic. I suppose it must get boring wandering around on the walls all the time. I mean, if an attack is going to come, it's going to come through the tunnels, not over the water. Still, I wave an antenna at them in greeting. Hopefully they're able to see. Oh, looks like they can. They're launching fireballs at me. Big fireballs. They must have some sort of siege equipment set up on the walls, to be producing so many of these things in such a short period of time. Rather than stick around and engage in a mana war with an entire city's worth of mages, I let myself fall back down the tunnel I made, dropping down hundreds of meters before catching myself with a gravity well before I hit the ground. This narrative has been unlawfully taken from Novel Fire. If you see it on Amazon, please report it. Handy trick, that. The more I manipulate myself using gravity wells, the more useful I find it. Fall damage? Ha, not for me. Once I drop down to the ground, I find several of the nameless are waiting for me, concealed in the shadows. I don't remember being able to see them this well in the past. I think they're getting sloppy. Eldest, we have caught all the stragglers that we can, one of them says, stepping out of the darkness. Thanks for your help. I didn't want to take you away from your regular duties for so long. Hopefully there aren't too many who have started skipping their rest. There are many, the nameless one says, clacking her mandibles as if disappointed by the behavior of unsupervised children. The cells will be overflowing for the next few days. Seriously, sheesh. I never intended for any ants to become so manic about enforcing the daily rest period, but it's rather annoying that my siblings have decided to run so wild the moment they were let off the leash. Have some self-control, damn it. I'll lend Chrysalis to help you, I tell the nameless one. Clearly, my siblings are insufficiently afraid of the dark. That'll show them. The nameless one performs the eightfold genuflection before me, a rare honor considering I'm not a part of their order. With the shadow herself to aid us, we will catch up in record time. Are you alright with that, Chrysalis? As long as you don't go too far away. I'll be good. Then I'm fine. Ultimately, we managed to catch about half of the delvers that were in the tunnels, somewhere in the vicinity of 1200. Apparently, Merchant is back negotiating the sale right now. I wonder if the Council of Green Mountain is finally going to bite the bullet and pay up. An absolute king's ransom has been demanded for their people, investment funds for Merchant's interests. I'll be keen to see what she comes up with. The colony needs cores, after all. But if she ends up losing all the money, she'll get a mighty thwacking. I don't care how small she is. Well, now that they're huddling behind their walls, it's time to move on to the next phase, I sigh, stretching out my joints and cleaning my antennae. For now, we head back to the nest and take a short break. I could do with a status check and perhaps a few mutations before I go any further, and I still have new things to experiment with. I'm sure that Green Mountain will be coughing up blood when they fork over all that money to a pack of monsters, and screaming to their allies about the injustice of it all. They'll be angry, have their backs up, and be out for revenge. That's fine. That's exactly how I want them to be. After the second round is done, they'll be begging for us to leave them alone. I'm already tired of playing with these fools. I want vengeance on the slugs below, and these delvers have taken up more than enough of my time. Chapter 17-19 Dealing. A wise investment, Merchant nodded sagely, her glasses glinting in the dim light of the ship's stateroom. She gathered up the documents from the table in her front claws, stacking them neatly before placing them in her satchel. The delvers of Green Mountain are a force to be reckoned with. Who could possibly place a price on such exceptional and dedicated servants of their home city? It was difficult to say this without sounding sarcastic, given the fact the colony had swept up over 1,000 of them in a matter of days. But Merchant was who she was, and came across as nothing but sincere and pleased for the people of the mountain. To Alice Airy, it was utterly galling. Getting the council to agree to the ants' usurious price had been a nightmare. None had been willing to let the ants simply keep citizens of Green Mountain indefinitely. That would have been an outrage the people would never stand for, but getting them to settle on a single course of action had taken the best negotiators working around the clock to achieve. It was close to war, Alice said bitingly, receiving her own papers and putting them away. Only in the last hour were the votes swayed towards paying your fee. War? Merchant asked, as if she had never considered such a possibility. She shook her head energetically. Absolutely terrible for business. It would cost more than the price you just paid, and you wouldn't get your people back anyway. No, I am pleased that your council has made the wise decision. It bodes well for the future relations between our people. Alice very much doubted that. The council was furious at having to shell out such an exorbitant sum, devastating the budget and forcing them to impose a levy on the people to cover the shortfall. Now the common folk from the bottom of Green Mountain to the top were up in arms against the ants even more than they were before. If your goal was to cement the ill feeling my people have towards monsters, then you have certainly achieved it, she said. Merchant laughed. Of course not. We simply wanted to make sure that you were smart enough to pay. It really is the wisest choice. Now, when we take your people again, we can be confident you will do the right thing to get them home without any fuss. Alice paused, then frowned. You want to take our people again? How are you proposing to get them now that they are safe within the city? Is this a threat of invasion? Invasion? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. That would be so hypocritical of us. After criticizing your people and making you pay such a high price for invading our lands and threatening our people. This narrative has been unlawfully taken from Novel Fire. If you see it on Amazon, please report it. Monsters, not people. To think we would breach the walls of your fine city and snatch your delvers out of their beds. That would be madness. Of course we have no such intent. Then how could you possibly capture our delvers a second time? Alice asked, eyes narrowing. Well, I presume they have to leave sometime. Or are they going to sit inside the confines of Green Mountain forever? That hardly seems likely, especially since your council expects them to pay back a percentage of the ransom paid. Those delvers need to get back to work. It wasn't hard for Alice to connect the dots. So you're intending to do to us what the delvers did to you, she snapped. Keep them holed up inside Green Mountain, unable to leave, unable to work, afraid of capture. Such an action would be illegal in the extreme. We have the right as a sovereign city to access the dungeon. Of course, you have every right to access the dungeon, Merchant assured her with a magnanimous gesture. We would never dream of preventing you from accessing the dungeon. However, your delvers do not have the right to come back from the dungeon, now do they? Such a question, so innocently phrased, so calmly delivered, yet carrying so much menace. Alice Airy felt a chill run down her back, though she concealed it. The next few months played out in her mind so clearly. Delving teams leaving, some of them coming back, but not all of them, the numbers ticking up over time, causing the rest to grow afraid to stay in the city. If a settlement wasn't reached, then they would be forced to leave. After all, the ants had no problem with delvers working out of other cities. Only Green Mountain. Without those delvers, the city would lose a major part of its income and trade, along with a solid line of defense during waves. It wouldn't destroy Green Mountain, but it would set it back by decades. All because of some stupid ants. You really think you will be able to do this? Alice Airy said, growing angry. That we and our allies will simply sit back and allow it? There are delvers from the Silver City here, from Way Island, from High Peak Stronghold. Are you prepared to go into conflict with all of them? Please, Ms. Airy, there is no need to be so confrontational. Merchant chuckled. Conflict? Of course conflict isn't necessary. We are simply engaged in business. I like to think of it as a long-term investment. Did you know that ants can be very patient creatures? We don't sleep, not really anyway. We go into torpor, a state of complete motionlessness, where we slow our systems down to their absolute minimum, but we remain awake, in a sense, just waiting. I'm sure your allies will kick up a stink, I'm sure they will come over here and make a show of force. But we can be patient. We can do this for decades. There are so many more of us than there are of you. Eventually, the Green Mountain will begin to feel the full cost of its decisions. Alice stared at the ant, anger simmering in her chest. How dare these ants even think they could get away with this? The entirety of Green Mountain was furiously angered by what had happened. Another push, and they might just go to war regardless of what the council said. Also, she knew something that the ant did not. The church had sent a judgment battalion and they wanted that big ant in pieces. Perhaps Green Mountain would be willing to aid them in their quest. At the same time, Merchant knew something that Alice did not. The colony, or more specifically, the eldest, was not patient. Not in the slightest. This would be resolved quickly. Surprisingly quickly. The Nameless did not like to miss their sleep.